Hello, welcome to the Car Talk podcast. Today we're going to talk about something that I think is important. That is control. That is the idea of how do we gain control? How is it something we can fix? How is it something we can work on? What are the things that we need to gain control? But I'm going to throw a little bit of a twist in there, and you don't want to miss it. And that is, you may talk about what control is, and you may think you know how to gain control, but I'm going to tell you there's really only one way. There's really only one way to gain control of the situation. There's only one way to make it work and make it and fix it. So pay attention, listen, gain knowledge, and get ready because I'm going to teach you as much as I can about control. So, first of all, let's talk about the fact that we are uncontrollable and in uncontrollable times, right? Because guess what? That's a bit of a contradiction. I get that. But things are chaotic. Is everything in perfect order in your world? Is everything going great? You have nothing is out of whack. Everything is fantastic. We are all doing the very best we can. And things are fantastic and wonderful and awesome. Kids doing exactly what you want them to do. Your job is absolutely perfect. Family, no issues whatsoever. And everything is just great. No? Okay. So let's talk about what that means. What happens when things feel uncontrollable? How does it react? You get higher stress levels, you eat more, maybe you drink more, maybe you have all these other reactions that are causing problems, and those are things that are very difficult. So the adverse effects is that it causes lack of sleep, fatigue, stress, anger, lashing out, all the things that can happen that are not great. So we got to fix this. Why? Because we want to have a better 26 than we had as a 25. So let's talk about the most difficult thing that you're going to have to do in order to regain control in your life. And that's called responsibility. What do I mean by that? The first thing that I want you to think about is this. We cannot control things we do not take responsibility for. Why? Because if it's happening to us, we cannot control it. If it is an environment that is being done to us, you can't control what somebody else does. You can't control what somebody else thinks. You can't control what somebody else thinks or drinks or eats or does or drives. We cannot control someone else. I know that sounds crazy, but we really can't. That is not a thing. What we can do, however, is control us. We control what we eat, what we drink, how we react to a situation, the number of people and the ways that we... thank you so much, Abigail Smith, 6409. We really, really can control the way that we react. We can make sure that it is important to us. Hello, London Klutz. Hello, the Penny Flores. And so we are really looking at what is possible when we take control of a situation. So when we're thinking about that, we want to make sure that, one, I take responsibility. And I have made mistakes. Let me just tell you that right now. I've made big mistakes and I've made smaller mistakes. I said, hello, everybody. So my hope is that, and I have taken responsibility for those mistakes to a point where people are like, you need to blame somebody else. And I said, absolutely not. I would not do that. Why? Because it would put that other industry in jeopardy, or it would put that business in jeopardy. And that was not their fault that I made the choices that I did. So I feel that's very important. I also want to model that for my boys, for my children. So if I don't take responsibility for stuff, then they can sit there and blame everybody else and pretend like they're victims and act like somebody else is doing something to them. And that is not going to work for me as a father, because I want them to take responsibility for their own actions. I think that is an important part of raising children and growing up, and I think that we all need to work on that together. And so I believe that that is an important part of who we are and where we are at this point. So how do we do that, right? Because that's another thing. First things first, you got to go back and you need to write down the things that you feel are uncontrollable in your life. So I'm going to write down things like global politics. Hello, Leon 1576. I'm going to write my family. I love my wife. I love my kids. But guess what? I don't control her. I don't control them. They do have free will. They have an opportunity to ultimately do what it is that they choose to do. My job is to love them and to guide them and to encourage them and to help them and give them any information that they need to make the right choices. I'm going to educate my children. I'm going to teach them, but I'm not going to control them. That's very different. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that I can't control my job. I love my job. I love what I do. I love to teach. I love working with GED students. I love helping them gain their diplomas and work on things they need to. And so my hope is that I get the opportunity to help guide them and teach them that they have the ultimate control of their destiny, their lives, and their reaction to it. Are there circumstances where your control is taken away? Yes, absolutely. I've used extreme situations. Why? Because if you have a student who's gone to school and then all of a sudden that student is killed, is shot and killed by a person who has taken that away from you, then you have a response to that person. The response is the way that you handle yourselves. So ultimately, that is the way. And look, we have parents go different directions. You have parents get divorced. You have parents that left each other because their children were murdered in school. So that is a huge, huge thing. You also, though, had parents that decided to advocate, that decided to go and work on gun laws and all the different places. And so that is just an opportunity for them to go ahead and look at, what is the idea that they can kind of get things done. Um, I'm not going anywhere. I'm in a car. If you've noticed, the name of the podcast is Car Talk Podcast. So ultimately, the way that they reacted to the situation they were in tells their level of control and their level of control of emotions and things like that. Um, so that's important. Also, if I do something wrong, I can fix things if I do something wrong by saying what I did wrong, how I contributed to the situation, and what can I do better. And I think that is an important thing. I will go through and say, this is the area where I am responsible. I overreacted. I got angry. I got mad. I didn't think things through. I didn't think of all the consequences of what I was going to do. I was thinking about my own self interest. I was being self absorbed. I was acting like it's only about me and not about anybody else. And so I needed to fix that first before I started thinking about, oh, well, how will this affect other people? What are my thought processes? What is the critical thinking I can use to do better and be better? If I do that, then guess what? The decision making that I'm making is one my own. So if it fails, if something fails, if I'm working hard and making the decision and it fails, guess what? That failure is on me. It's my fault that it failed. It's nobody else's. I'm not blaming my accountant. I'm not blaming anybody else. It's my own fault. But the other flip side of that, if it succeeds and it does really well, that's also on me. I get to celebrate my successes. I get to say we did well, we worked as a team, we grew together, and we did incredible things. So businesses, this is important as well. So this is an important part of what it is that we get to do. So I hope that, again, you're growing up, because some of you are being a little juvenile in the chat, and that you're able to learn and grow and actually get better at what you're doing. Why? Because it is important as you grow up that you mature and that you learn that no one's doing anything for you. No one's out there to do anything to you. You're either handling it yourself, and everything that you say and do represents you. So it's important for you to understand that as well. So if you're looking at things and going, well, things aren't working out the way I expect them to, great. What have you done to make it work out the way that you want it to? What are you doing to help yourself? What are you doing to make that dream come true? What are you doing to get your name out there? What are you doing to achieve those benchmarks that you want to do? And am I perfect? No. Do I make mistakes? Yes. Have I messed up? Yes. Will I mess up? Yes. Why? Because I'm a human being like everybody else. So what I like to do, though, and what I will do, and what you're going to see soon, is I'm about to do my assessment. My assessment is going through all of the things that I thought what I was going to do this last year, what I did well and what I didn't. And I'm going to assess myself and say, yes, I did it, or yes, I didn't. I'm glad that things are working out for you. This is Keeper of Bees 1. And they said things are working out exactly the way I wanted. And I'm glad you get what you want. And I hope you get it, and I appreciate that. So I am looking forward to doing that assessment and looking at what worked and what didn't, and then things that didn't work, I'll fix it and correct it. Why? Because that's also part of this particular network, is the idea that I'm gonna look at things that work, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm gonna let that go. And because I'm not wasting time or wasting energy on something that doesn't work. That just doesn't make sense. I also, though, am going to look at what I promote and the people I promote and the way that they comport themselves and handle themselves, because I think that's important as well too. I'm going to look at, you know what, are you a leader? Are you an important leader? Are you doing the things that I think are important? Well, because that's my choice. You also have that same choice. You can pick the leadership that you like and help them as well. So I hope that that is something that is important to you. Um, when we're thinking about control, the other part of it is, now I'm going to be more honest. If you're in a controlling situation, that can be very different. If you're being controlled, that can be very different. I've had students that have been in controlling situations that are very dangerous. That is a very different space that you're in. You, at that point, need to get help. And you get help from people that can help you and get you out of that situation. And I'm not playing around, no joking. I'm absolutely being very serious. If you're in a dangerous position at this point, you need to find people around you to get you out of that situation if you're being controlled. And what does that look like? That can look at like somebody saying, "Oh, I'll just drop you off and pick you up," and I need to know everybody that you're talking to and where you're going and what you're doing. If that's what the situation you're in, that's a very different space. That is not the same level of control I'm talking about. That is very, very different. I'm talking about your personal control, your circle of control, which is your job, your relationships, the people that you're with. It could be your friendships. It could be, the choice of what you buy. I said all of those are kind of under our own control, as far as we may not have enough money, but we can make more money and do that. And ultimately, that's a way that we can do that. But I want you to really think about the health and wellness of yourself before anybody else. And I know that that's crazy, and that will be another video all onto itself, which I say, I want you to be selfish. I want you to put yourself before everybody else. And that's something that we don't teach. I think that's something that we don't emphasize enough. We're prioritizing ourselves more than everybody else. And I mean, that sounds crazy, but we'll walk through it and we'll talk through it and we'll kind of do that in a different video after this. But the level of control that I have allow me the opportunity to say, my life is my life. My mistakes are my mistakes. My joys are my joys. My happiness is my happiness. And there's no one else that gets to dictate to me how I feel about that. I said, it doesn't. I get to choose whether I accept what it is that people say about me. I get to choose whether I let it affect me. I get to choose whether it is something that is going to mess up my day. I choose my attitude every morning, and sometimes I choose a good one, and sometimes I choose a bad one. I've chosen some days to just be crabby. I've chosen days to be happy. I've chosen to change my attitude during the day because I'm like, that's ridiculous. I'm going to go out for a walk and fix it. But each time, my attitude was my choice, right? My attitude was no one else's choice. It was no one else's fault that I was crabby. No one else's fault that I didn't get enough sleep. No one else's fault that I didn't eat enough. That was all my own. I chose to do that. That was my choice. And that also is a privilege, and I get that. And if you're going to put that in the chat, that's fine too. It is a privilege to be able to make those choices. And I recognize that. But I also want to make sure that everybody understands this is an important part of where we're at. People are blaming everybody else. People are arguing that everything else is happening for somebody else's reason. People are saying, well, I can't do this because of X, Y, and Z. Nah. Either I didn't work hard enough, I didn't advocate hard enough, I didn't do what I needed to do to get the message across, I didn't vote as much as I needed to, I didn't do what I needed to do to make that happen. So it's nobody else's fault. This whole area is nobody else's fault. It's my own. Because I did not work hard enough to make changes or do things differently to make it be different than what it is. So again, I love my life. I love what I have available to me. I love that you guys have been on and have watched. And my hope is that you get a chance to just watch through this as a quick, like 15 minutes, to just kind of look through and go, you know what? I have control over my space. I have control over my life. I have control over the way that I react to things and the way that I am. And I'm hoping that you have the opportunity to fix that as well. And I also am looking forward to the idea that, you know what, watch again, watch more of my videos, check out my network, and you'll learn more about me, and you'll get to learn about my background and history and all of that. I deal with things in self-improvement and life and business. I've got things on coffee. I've got things on travel. I've got things on anything Norman, Oklahoma related, because that's the area that I live in. I've got gardening and all kinds of things that are going on. So I hope that you check all that out. And don't forget to subscribe and like it and share it with everybody and tag your friends that might need to hear about this, about being controlling and how to fix that. And I appreciate you and thank you and have a great day.